Hello. I say hello a lot so that the audio can
Hello.
settle down. Hello, everybody. We are back for episode number 197. I can't believe it's that many of the This Week in WordPress show. I'm Nathan Wrigley, and I'm joined this week by three utterly fabulous guests. I must make sure that I read out their do you know what I nearly said? I nearly said read out their obituaries, which is really not what I intended to say. Read out their bios correctly at the beginning, but just very, very briefly, joined by three people: Taco, as you can see, and Sabrina, as you can see, and Jen. Just before we begin, I don't want to butcher your name because we've never spoken before, but I'm assuming you're Jen.
Yes, I am.
Okay. In which case, I'll go around, do a little round robin and introduce all three of you one at a time. So firstly, welcome to Taco. Taco is one of the six co-hosts of this show, and Taco is a community manager, or manages the community at Yoast, which includes awesome areas like sponsoring, the Yoast Diversity Fund and the Yoast Care Fund. He's deputy on the WP community team, which he says in brackets is slightly dormant, organizer of the WordPress Meetup in a place whose name I'm going to mess up, Nijmegen.
Close, Nijmegen.
Okay, I was nowhere near. Be honest. He joined the WordCamp Netherlands 2022.org team just last week. And according to the bio, he hasn't told his wife yet. So let's hope that she's not watching just at this moment. How are you, Taco?
I'm good. Thank you.
There's going to be an awful lot of Taco in the show, I think, and we talked just before the show. There's quite a lot of interest to talk about with Taco today. So second up, hello, Sabrina. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks.
Sabrina hasn't been on the show for a little while, and I'm really glad to see her back. She's the performance engineer at XWP, content team lead at WordCamp Europe 2022. How's the XWP job going?
It's going very well. We're making web faster each day. That's why I haven't been at the show. Was too busy making web faster.
It's okay. Sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. But the WordCamp Europe thing, I've been spying on your Facebook feed. I think have you been to Porto twice?
Twice. Yeah, it's a nice place to go.
Yeah, of course.
And the venue is just superior. So yeah, why not?
And you've been just sort of scouting it out and making sure everything's as it should be, I'm guessing.
Yeah, exploring the venue, the main venue for social with other organizers, just making sure that everything is as planned.
And is everything as planned?
Everything is fantastic. I know that I cannot be objective, but for me, everything looks just awesome. I cannot wait for June.
Oh, and so nice to have these in-person
Your
events
face
back.
just starts glowing when you talk about it. I like that. I'm looking forward even more.
Yeah, are you going, Taco?
Just wait for June. You will be the same.
Yeah, I'm glad to say that I have not missed a single WordCamp Europe yet, and I'm not planning on missing it this year.
Oh,
right.
Now I'm caught. Oh dear. Anyway, let's move right along and talk about Jen, because Jen is here joining us for the very first time. It's very nice to have you. Jen, I said earlier that I didn't know how to pronounce your first name, but your surname is going to present an equal problem. Is it Harris?
Harry's.
Okay, thank you. So Harry's as in like Harrys, that sort of pronunciation.
Yes.
Okay. Well, Jen is a white label WordPress developer, the owner of Anphera, which is and she's a web accessibility advocate and organizer of the Baltimore WordPress Meetup. How does that happen in this time of COVID? Have you been going online or have you gone back?
I actually picked up the Baltimore WordPress Meetup during COVID. WordPress sent out an email saying that they were going to disband the group and stop funding it because the admins hadn't done anything in a couple of years. So they said, if you want to be an admin, contact us. And so I contacted them and I took over the group.
Oh.
And so we've done everything online with Zoom. We have some very popular Ask Me Anythings where we get people from not only the local area, but also all over the country. We've even gotten a few people from other countries to come visit.
How very cool. Well, really appreciate you joining us for the first time. I hope it's the first of many. But the three of us are going to talk about the WordPress news that's happened in the last week. Just before then, though, let's say a few hellos. Firstly, a bit of housekeeping. If you would like to comment, and you're on Facebook, particularly in our Facebook group, although that might be on the page as well, I'm not entirely sure, then there is a link which is embedded in the post at the top. It's chat.restream.io/Facebook. If you don't click that link, that's fine, but we won't know who you are. We'll rely on you telling us by typing your name in. But if you do click on that link and authorize it, then we can see your avatar and so on and so forth. If you would like to go and share this stream, put it on to pause for a moment and go and tell the people all about it, that would be nice. We're over on wpbuilds.com/live. That's probably the best place to send people. And they can use Google's chat because it's a YouTube link. So good morning from Lee, who's in the UK. Lee Matthew Jackson, I'm guessing, because he's written Trailblazer there. And then we've got Rob Cairns, who joins us each week. It's nice to see you, my friend. Beth, I'm guessing, is somewhere in the chat, but I can't see her as yet. Almost 200. Oh, I didn't think about that. Yeah, that is almost 200 episodes, isn't it? 3 more to go, and we'll get over that milestone. Nathan is on a roll. I sometimes look at myself and I feel that I'm, getting a bit rounder. And what have we got here? We've also got a living obituary. Yeah, sorry about that. WordCamp Europe. I applied to speak at WordCamp EU, hoping still might go. Hard to make travel decisions these days. Whoever you are, I know exactly what your dilemma is. But there we go. Let's get stuck into the main event. This is our website, wpbuilds.com. If you head over there, you can subscribe to the content that we produce. This is called This Week in WordPress. We do it on a Monday and it comes out on a Tuesday. And then we do a podcast, which comes out on a Thursday. And you can find all the links just sort of down there. What are we on? Episode 266 of the podcast. And obviously 197 of this one. Right, let's get stuck into it this week. This is a piece over on Smashing Magazine. It's written by Leonardo Lozovic. I apologize, Leonardo, if I have butchered your name. We did talk about this a little bit a couple of weeks ago, but I just want you to go into it not in a little bit more depth, but just talk about it some more because I've got some new panelists and I think this is a really interesting subject. Anybody who uses WordPress will realize by now that blocks are the thing, and blocks are kind of connected in most people's heads with Gutenberg. So, you drop into the block editor and you drop in a block, and that block can do, all manner of things, write a paragraph or create an image or perhaps put a piece of audio on. But recently, a chap called Joel Spolsky, and I think I've got his name right, he is the founder, or at least he's in charge of Trello and Stack Exchange and a bunch of other things. Well, he's decided that he wants to do a thing called the block protocol. So this would mean that blocks on any property on the internet. So again, divorce WordPress from it. WordPress blocks hopefully would work, but any other kind of block. So imagine like a MailChimp block worked with an Active Campaign block, which also worked with a Google Doc block or something in Slack or something in WordPress. The idea is that they would all be able to interoperate. And Leo's put this piece together this week, sort of saying why he thinks this is a really nice idea. He goes into sort of the technical aspects of how it all might work. There's lots of interesting charts that if you're watching, you can see at the moment. But he also kind of makes the point that it'll be really a difficult thing to pull off, because imagine that you own the company Notion or Medium, and you are in the business of getting subscribers to create their content, their whatever it may be, over on your platform. Leo thinks it's going to be a bit of a hard push to get those people to give up their proprietary blocks. And start to make them interoperate, because obviously that then sort of, in a way, kills their kind of commercial advantage. So anyway, I just thought this was a really interesting piece. I don't know if you guys have got any thoughts on this, but the idea of having my WordPress blocks being able to work in Evernote or Google Docs or who knows where is really fascinating to me. So I'm just going to open it up. Feel free to just interrupt. And if you crosstalk, I'm sure one of you will back out and the other one can speak. So it's over to you three.
I already heard Sabrina humming, but you want to go first?
Sure. Everyone is so polite today.
Yeah, yeah.
Just after Nathan invited us to speak, everyone is keeping silence.
That's
All right.
That's right. Yeah, I've gotten used to. It's funny, when I first started doing the show, those silences felt like hours. Like 3 seconds of silence as somebody doing what I do feels like. But I've grown to love it and to understand that the silence is just the pause between people actually committing to speak. So Sabrina, go for it.
Yeah, I like the idea very much. I also cannot see how it can work in multiple directions when like each service has its own blocks and they are reusable all over the internet. To me, it sounds like a great mess. Like nothing will be developed properly, nothing works properly, no unification. I'm a developer, right? So I like when everything is unified, strict, and very, very easy and understandable and limited. Because as much freedom you give to user, the more chances you have MS. So I like the idea of limitations, but nice limitations. So I'm thinking, for example, to have WordPress, what we call now WordPress blocks, because in a while it can be changed. Maybe it will be WordPress inside blocks, not blocks inside WordPress, you know? So the idea of having WordPress blocks in, say, MailChimp account, it sounds very, very attractive to me. And vice versa as well, to have something from MailChimp come into WordPress naturally. So you use the same interface, the same functionality in both systems. Because right now it's a mess trying to set connections between anything. So I'm seeing the opportunity here to replace maybe some sort of, this can be the continuation of API development, where APIs in general can go. I think this is very exciting.
It's a really, like, we use things like Zapier or Zapier, depending on how you pronounce it. That's it. You've got to go through a third-party conduit, and you've got to really set everything up to be exactly following the rules so that the correct thing happens. I have literally no idea how this would look. So if you wanted to suck something out of MailChimp and it automatically go into a WordPress website, I don't know what that UI would look like. But I think what we're just trying to describe here is just how do they talk to each other? What are the components? What are the bits, the metadata, if you like, that is encapsulated in a block so that they can all speak to each other, and we'll worry about how they speak to each other on another day. Sorry, Taco, I interrupted.
Yeah. So I think that's interesting because what you're describing is basically would be a MailChimp block inside WordPress. But what I was thinking when reading this article is we could have a paragraph block that is the exact same thing in MailChimp and in Drupal and in WordPress.
Right.
And we can have an image block that you can use like a hero image block that would work the same way in all three, but not necessarily a block inside WordPress that would connect into MailChimp, because that is entirely different functionality.
Yeah.
And as a big fan of open source, I really like the idea, because open source, one of the biggest benefits of open source is that we're using our resources only once to create a thing. Once we've invented the block, why would someone else need to invent the same block if they can put that same energy into improving the existing block, and then both will benefit? So the open source mindset behind the block protocol, that is brilliant. From a practical and development point of view, I have no idea.
yeah, I know what you mean. I think you're right. Obviously, WordPress is very much involved with pushing stuff onto the open internet so that you can see it or read it or hear it or watch it, and that is the purview of WordPress. It's a publishing platform, right? But the idea of connecting it to do other things. An example that comes to mind is when I've kind of embedded something from a Google spreadsheet into a Google Doc. It's there, and if I fiddle with it in the spreadsheet, it's now going to be changed on the Google Doc on the fly. I don't have to then go back and sort of copy and paste it again. It's just they're all interoperating, and the beauty. Imagine the possibilities of that. You know, you might have a desktop app
Replace
where you do
the
all
logo, for example.
Right, and you just swap it in one place, and on the 15 different places where your logo is, Twitter or who knows, but yeah, an image, it will just instantly percolate around the internet, and that you've just got this one original source block. That's kind of where I'm seeing it going. Anyway, I realize we cut Jen out of this conversation. So Jen, have you got anything to add?
It's okay. So I think it's interesting, but I also think that, wow, this is going to be a mess to try to implement.
Yeah.
I think it could actually work within possibly WordPress to start, because at least then you would get some traction and something going forward. It'd be really cool if I could, have a block in one website and then, click something in my other WordPress install and just instantly populate that block over there. That would be really cool. And it would be amazing if you could do that on like the dashboard. I mean, for someone who administrates a lot of different websites, it would be fantastic if I could modify something in one WordPress admin and then have it instantly populate to all of my others. Like I could have some like help documents. I publish a few different help pages for my clients and whatnot. It'd be really cool if I could just like update information about that right on their dashboard and have it instantly populate over.
Yeah, I totally get what you mean. That's got a real solid use case in the real world, hasn't it? I think one of the things that Leo feels is that really this is only going to be able to be contributed to by people who've got very deep pockets, and that's a sort of slight concern. We'll have to see how this develops. I just think it's an absolutely fascinating idea. In the history of creating content on the internet, everything's basically in a silo, and you pay a third-party company to suck stuff out of that silo and put it into another place that you may wish to have it, like Facebook or Twitter or wherever it may be. And also I can just see the permutations of this that are never visible. So it might be, I don't know, banking or something. You might be able to, update banking details across multiple different platforms with the same kind of block if everything interoperates. It's just a fascinating idea. So that was a smashing magazine article. It was called Implications of WordPress Joining the Block Protocol. It's totally worth a read. It's about a 15-minute read, something like that, and it'll probably inspire lots of thoughts. Just a quick one. We've got a comment in here from WP Roadmaps. Hello. He says he can't find the Facebook link to tell you who I am. I'm just going to pause the show for a while very quickly and put it on the screen. Here we go. It is chat.restream.io/FB. Chat.restream.io/FB. I hope that helps. If not, don't worry. We can probably get out of you if you stay on YouTube. That's absolutely fine. Okie dokie. Next piece then is going to be this one. Okay, before we get into Tammy Lister's piece, which I'll show on the screen in a minute, show of hands. Who has tried, between the four of us, who's tried to build an entire website with full site editing? Who's tried?
Tried or managed?
No, tried. Managed is the next question. So 3 of us have tried. Who's succeeded? Okay, nobody succeeded. That was kind of the perfect introduction. So this is a piece over at extendify.com. Tammy Lister, who I think, where does she, is she at XWP now?
XWP. Yeah.
So she's one of Sabrina's colleagues. That's a coincidence. I genuinely had forgotten that. She wrote a piece on the Extendify blog, and she used to work for Extendify. And then prior to that, she was an automatician who was in charge of designing the block editor, the actual look and feel and what have you. And she's raising the question about full site editing. And the piece is called Gutenberg Full Site Editing Does Not Have to Be Full. What she's basically saying is, you are kind of, forgive me, Tammy, I'm not saying that you're saying this, but the piece felt to me like, don't try to do too much at once. There are so many pieces coming down the pipeline at the minute. You've got the theme JSON, you've got full site editing, you've got navigation blocks, and all of this hitting you in what feels like a bit of a hurricane at the minute. And her thought is, don't try to do them all at once, because it's certainly not going to work. And I've tried it. I probably gave it several hours. Taco can tell us about his experience, and Sabrina and Jen, if she's had a fiddle with it as well. But I kind of had to back out and try to achieve far less. And so Tammy's strategy is basically this. She's saying, look at all the different things that you've got to fiddle with. There's the actual editing of the site. There's block-based themes you've got to worry about. There's global styles. There's the theme.json file. There's templates and template parts, site editing specific blocks, block widgets and navigation. And then you've obviously got all of your design tools as well. And so I've highlighted a little bit where basically she says, slow down. Don't try to do anything more than one thing at a time. And her advice, as you can see, if you're looking on the screen, I did it in yellow. My best advice to anyone looking to start on this journey right now is to start with patterns. Patterns are sort of collections of blocks to achieve a particular design goal, I guess. Move then onto the theme.json component and try to figure that out once you've got patterns sussed. And then from there, gradually move on to whatever of the other bits and pieces that are new to WordPress makes sense for you. I think for me, it would probably be figuring out how the navigation block and all of that kind of works properly so that I could implement it. But it was just interesting from somebody who's steeped in all of this kind of stuff. It does feel to me as if you try to do everything all at once at the moment and try to build a website, there is potential for frustration and failure. So let's go round. Let's start with Taco. You were just before we started recording, you told me a very short tale about failure.
Yeah. So the backstory is that my wife started her own business late last year, and obviously she didn't have a lot of funds to start with, and was thinking about spending money on a website. And I was like, yeah, well, I've been working with WordPress for 8 years. I can do this. Mind you, I haven't been a developer for almost 8 years. And the last time I touched the code of a theme has been, well, about 8 years ago. So that didn't work out to build a basic standard WordPress theme because I forgot about all the moving parts there. And I was like, wait, this full site editing is coming up. I've been playing with blocks. I can do blocks. So I installed, that was just before 5.9. So I installed the Gutenberg plugin, the latest that had the full site editing. And I started playing with that, thinking, hey, I can build a site with this because, I know how blocks work. And it got to about 60, 70%. And then I had a custom post type in there. And I got lost. I had to do something with the theme JSON. I had no experience whatsoever. I got frustrated. It took me a couple of hours in the evening, and I completely destroyed everything I had. Decided to remove it, installed Elementor, and now the site's almost ready.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
And I suspect that story is the case all over the place. And it isn't a question of you not having the capacity to do it. It's probably a function of time, really, isn't it? You haven't had the history with it or the time to research at the minute.
That, and I wanted to be nicer. I mean, I could have easily bought the theme, adjusted some colors, and then say, honey, here's your site. This is your starting point. MVP, good to go. But I wanted to make it nice, and that's where I went wrong because that was just, yeah.
Well, Tammy then is giving sage advice if that's the case. Her recommendation would be go back to the beginning. And where did she say to start? What was it? Oh, patterns. Just fiddle about with patterns for a bit. But obviously, if you've got custom post types and all that, there's more moving parts, and that kind of has to work, doesn't it? And I guess with Elementor, you're so used to it. It's almost like doing it in your sleep. You can just create it, and anything that's not that workflow is horrible.
Yeah. So actually, it's only the second site that I built with Elementor as well. But it's easier because there's so many tutorials out there. There's so many videos by the Elementor team that while I pretend to be awesome to my wife because all she sees is progress, all I'm doing is watching YouTube and doing that and asking for help from Annemieke Bovelet, who's absolutely awesome at Elementor. So
this is I get it. I totally sympathize with you. Sabrina, what about you? You raised your hand for trying, you kept your hand down when it was succeeding.
I've tried, but I'm very hopeful to try again after with 5.9 because the navigation block what made me stuck in previous time, it wasn't custom post but navigation and menus. So I'm very, very excited to try again, and I hope that this time it will work out. I very much like the advice coming from Tammy, and it's fascinating to see this kind of advice, like don't freak out, basically, coming from someone who was so deeply involved into building the tool. Like, I think it goes back to the principles of well-being in WordPress community. Like Tim is not saying you have to learn this deeply, you have to know this from A to Z. You like if you don't know something, you're out of the game. No, she's saying quite opposite. Like take it slowly, baby steps. Don't worry, you have support, and I think it represents perfectly what's happening in WordPress community in general, not just in this small thing.
Thank you. And Jen, obviously you mentioned that you've got a lot of client websites and things. So how far have you strayed into giving the block editor a chance with your clients? Are you using it for anything, or is it still very much other tooling?
I've watched a few videos on the full site editing, after which I said, I'm not letting this anywhere near a client. They would freak out. I mean, clients are like, I want to click on the text and have a cursor show up and type. And the block editor, I mean, I've done some simple pages with Gutenberg, and it's still a fight to get something to land in the right spot.
Yeah.
I'm like, you've always got to pull up that sidebar with the, kind of table of contents kind of sidebar, you know what I mean, in Gutenberg? Okay. Yeah. And you've got to always move things around in there, and then you've got to pop back to one side, insert placeholder paragraph blocks, because you can't possibly drop something into an empty area. And so, yeah, right now it's mostly Elementor on all of the client sites, because they just can't deal with Gutenberg and its quirkiness and whatnot.
It's fascinating that the two of you, Taco and Jen, you're both sort of using Elementor. It's tried and trusted. It does what it says on the tin. I feel like the promise in 6 and 5.9 going forwards, with all the new videos that will be created, I feel that the promise is cool. The navigation block, I think, is really cool, especially when you sort of drill down and you look at how it actually structures it. But it also feels like a step too far for a client who probably doesn't want to see all the nested different blocks, you know, all the pages nested on the page. They just want to know, okay, that's the menu that we're choosing. I actually I sort of skipped to this bit. I don't know if I've mentioned it. Yeah, I will.
You did? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very quickly. I did a podcast episode for WP Tavern this week, or it came out last week, Wednesday. Oh, by the way, this comes out on a Wednesday. And it was with Dave Smith, Isabel Brisson, and Johan Asmussen, and they're all automaticians who've been working on the navigation block. It's a really nice, honest appraisal of where it is, and I think it's fair to say that they also know that there are problems. As an example, you can't create a sort of draft menu and sort of save that away somewhere. What you create is what's going on the website. There's no ability to kind of play with something and put it away and not introduce it onto the site. If you create a menu, it's going on the site, so you don't get any chance to sort of fiddle around and not implement it. But there's lots and lots of promise here. You know, at the minute we're tied to WordPress themes taking control, all of that. So if you're not experienced and you don't know how to unpick all of that, what you get in the theme is pretty much what you get with all the options. Whereas with this, you could, because it's a block, you can surround it by anything. You know, you could put 2 menu links on one side and then an image and then a subscribe form and then some more links, whatever. You can do absolutely anything. But the point was that they know that there's work to be done to get it into clients' hands. And I think, Jen, your point is absolutely correct at the moment, isn't it? The clients are going to freak out and literally break everything if you were to do all of this in Gutenberg right now.
Yes, so very much.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is that on Yoast.com, someone else is responsible for all the theming and all the stuff. But if I get to work with the block editor on the help pages that we have for the plugin, I absolutely love it, because those blocks allow me to super easily create a site, create a page that looks nicely and that does what it should do. But for me, it's the theming part and building it from scratch, that was too hard. But
Yeah.
using the block editor is so much better than what we had before.
Yeah. Really good point. I don't think it's there for the whole full site editing. Anyway, the piece that we were discussing there, let me just see if I can find it again. There we go. It's Tammy Lister on the Extendify blogs. So go to extendify.com and then click on the blog. It's called Gutenberg Full Site Editing. Does not have to be full. And I think Tammy's words are probably wise words. Pick one thing, probably block patterns, play with those, and take them there. Don't try to do everything all at once. Okay, just a couple of quick comments. It would appear that this is Beth Livingston, WP Roadmaps. I should have made the connection, but no, Beth, we cannot see you. We just see you as Facebook user still. So what I would recommend is throw the computer at the wall. Who knows why? Switch it on and off. What is it they say? Turn it on and off again on the IT crowd. Rob, he's loving the block editor, and he's now playing with full site editing. Rob, let us know how that goes. Let us know if, like us, you get frustrated by it, or if you have total insight and revelation and it just works out of the box. My experience hasn't been 100% smooth so far, and Beth just says that. Keep going, Beth. Keep going. We believe in you. By the end of the show, you'll be with us. Okay, next one. Right. Okay. Firstly, two pieces that are very much interconnected. This is WP Mainline, which is Jeff Chandler's blog, and he's written a piece called "I Live in a World Where an Ad Blocker Plugin for the WordPress Backend Exists," and he's referencing this piece, which is on WP Tavern, called "The Clarity Ad Blocker for WordPress Announced Receives Mixed Reactions." We'll go into those mixed reactions in a moment and get different takes, because we've got some different opinions in our little community on the show today. But he's basically saying that a guy called Stanislav Kromov, I'm going to say is his surname, he has he's the author of something called Clarity, and he's got this idea of creating a kind of ad blocker within WordPress. So it's a plugin, and the idea being that it would simply stunt the ability of your WordPress plugins from showing notifications which you may not see as relevant. So I think everybody would see it as relevant if there was something critical, like, I don't know, we really want to make it clear that we've had some kind of breach, or your plugin needs to be updated and it's much more important than the usual cycle. We'll get to that in a minute. All of those kind of things, I don't think anybody's going to argue with, depending on whether or not they appeared for clients, what have you. I think the principle here, though, is more about whether or not there should be advertisements, upsells, upgrades, whatever, in the WordPress admin. And we've discussed this in the past lots and lots of times. And so Jeff was saying, basically, how has it come to be that we're in a world where this is possible? If we flip over to the article on WP Tavern, it's really interesting because you get a different perspective in some of the comments. Now, I'm sure that a lot of people listening to this will, the instant reaction, which I'm sure Taco can confront in a minute, is ads, no, bad, get rid at all costs, make them go away. Can we have a notification area? Can we have a solution built into WordPress where all of this stuff lives so we don't have to see it? And of course, it's a commercial thing, WordPress. I'm sure everybody connected with WordPress at some point would like to make some revenue and put food on the table and all of that. And so some of the people who are responsible for creating plugins have pushed back. So, for example, we have here a comment on the screen. I'm just going to quote it. It says, "By creating an ad blocker, your selfish disregard for the commercial realities of open source is a delicate ecosystem," one developer wrote. In the AWP thread, if you use a free product, pay for it by tolerating a few nags. And then somebody else says, the idea of taking somebody's work product but bypassing their ads is at minimum unethical, wrote another developer. Nobody is forced to capitalize on the fruit of anybody else's labor. So we seem to have two very distinct positions. The crowd, if you like, who say no ads, WordPress is free, I don't want to be cluttered by ads, I certainly don't want my clients seeing all of this stuff. And then, on the other hand, we've got these people who are saying, look, this is a really effective way of us turning something free into something paid. In fact, it's one of the only opportunities that we've got to advertise our paid superior service, superior plugin, whatever. And so seems to be some sort of pushback. Now, into that mix, we're going to throw Taco. Because as we know, in the past, Yoast have put various different things in the platform. On this new show, we've talked about it in the past. Ads at the top, which you have to dismiss. So, Taco, go for it. The ball is in your court. I hope that you're not feeling too on the spot.
Oh, not at all.
He's frozen, by the way. Has he
I'm
frozen
sorry?
for everybody else?
No.
Is he still moving?
Sometimes.
Okay.
He's moving
Taco,
now.
I can hear every word you say, but your video is currently frozen for me. But so long as I can hear. Oh, and you're back. You're back. That's fine.
Okay. So I'll tell my provider I need a better connection. So I think it's a in one regard a really hard discussion, because there absolutely needs to be a balance between informing users that there is a paid version of a product, and in the other hand, not getting this sort of having Times Square in your backyard. I think there's a lot of area between that. And I mean, I work at Yoast. Obviously, it says so here, and it's very obvious that I'm on the side of having the option to at least communicate to users that there is a premium version of the product. Because if everyone who uses free would have this clarity plugin, which would, and it's slightly smarter than that because it doesn't remove all the ads, but even if it takes out like 90% of the ads, and that means that our sales of the premium plugin would go down by a lot, that would significantly affect the free product, because we're paying developers not from the income that we generate with a free plugin. They need to make a living as well. So we need that paid product to be able to sustain the free one. And the challenge that we have with Yoast is, obviously we do have admin pages. So an administrator to a website sees some of them, but it's not pages that you need to visit very frequently. As soon as you set up your social profiles, there's no need, unless something changes, to go into those admin pages. So even though our plugin is installed, an admin would only see our admin pages every so often. So if that's the only place where we can have ads or can have some form of upsell, it's a really hard sell, because how do we then tell people there is a premium version? The thing that people see all the time is the Yoast Seo Meta box, because that's when you're writing a post or a page, is what gives you the information on how your page is doing, on how your post is doing in terms of SEO and readability. The thing is that oftentimes admins are not the people writing the posts. They're building the site. So the people writing the posts are the editors or the authors on the site. And if we're not allowed to show that group that there is a more advanced version of the analysis they're using, then how are we selling our premium product? Because you're basically not allowing us to reach our target audience. And that's a real hard problem, because we want to have some upsell there, but it shouldn't be intrusive. And finding that balance is a constant battle, and our UX team, UI team is doing that all the time.
That was a really nice answer. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. And it is a difficult it's a difficult tightrope to tread, isn't it? Because as you say, if the commercial product directly, well, let's be honest, the commercial product enables the free product on
Yes.
some level. You couldn't have a product of that magnitude for free. It's just, you guys have all got to put food on the table. It's as simple as that. And it is curious that we're in a community where there is a very polar reaction to this, and it's basically binary. It appears like anything that's an advertisement is considered to be really horrible, and so even if you gently tread over that line, and presumably you guys are constantly thinking of ways to manage that tightrope without pushing too far over to one side or over to the other. Yeah, that's really interesting. Taco, do you have any thoughts on, because Rob mentioned it and I've mentioned it in the past, do you have any thoughts on this idea of like a notification area within WordPress? So if I log into any one of the multitude of SaaS apps that I've got, they've very often got this. It seems to always be a bell. There's some kind of like little bell icon, and the bell icon is wobbling, or there's a red dot next to it, or something like that, and it's alerting me to the fact that there's stuff I need to know. Do you have any thoughts on putting stuff like those inside a notification area, or is that not enough? Do you need to be in the the eyeballs need to see it whether they go to the notification area or not?
Yeah. So then again, it differs. Who is your target audience? I mean, there is a very nice project in development. I think it's currently a core feature plugin, which is WP Notify, which is doing exactly that. It's offering a place for all the notifications from all the plugins to be shown. And that would absolutely work well for the things that we've now built into the Yoast notification center, because in the Yoast SEO, there is a specific notification center. And those would work really well in that WP Notify sort of general notification center if it's targeting admins. But I don't think that you would want that same bell with that red icon next to it for all your authors and all your editors on your site, because it will also probably also show notifications that are either not relevant to them, or you have to be able to set that per specific role. But then the notification would be out of context. Whereas what we're trying to do now is to have a notification that says, hey, you're using this analysis. Know that there's a better version of this, without making it big and screamy and having a big banner. And we've made that mistake. But it's trying to be right there where you would expect that extra feature to be, instead of being some annoying bell in the top of your screen that's screaming for attention where you don't want to give attention to because you're writing a post.
Yeah.
So
sorry, I thought you'd finished. I apologize.
Yeah.
Carry on.
Yeah. So I think it really depends on who you're targeting, who your audience is, but also what kind of plugin you have. If you have a plugin that does caching, you don't need to annoy a user that doesn't have any rights to change any of that with a notification.
Yeah.
So it really depends on the plugin whether that would work, I guess.
Yeah. That's absolutely fascinating. Jen, you mentioned that you've obviously got lots of these client websites. Do you get any pushback on this kind of thing? Do you get people kind of, I don't know, ringing you up and saying, what on earth am I supposed to do with this? It looks like I haven't got everything. They're telling me to upgrade. Not specifically Yoast related, but with any of the multitude of plugins out there. Do you have any thoughts on this?
So I've basically taught most of my clients to just don't even read it. They just click the dismiss button. They just ignore it. Don't even bring it up because I'm in your website regularly. I will see it. So they're basically taught to just completely ignore any of those notices up top. Because, let's say ACF wants to do a database update. no, the client should not be clicking the database update because I do a backup before I do the database update, so that, you know, in the unlikely chance that something goes sideways, I can restore it. But I think that the bell is a bad idea. I mean, I can tell you on my banking app, there's a bell. I think I check it once a year, and it has like 15 notifications, and honestly, none of them matter, because they're like, your statement is available. You
Yes.
sent me an email about that.
Yes. Yes.
So, I mean, honestly, I have lots of apps and they have bells, and I never, ever check the bells. But I also think that they shouldn't. So, I mean, there's the notifications you get on like the plugins page and on your main dashboard. And I think that those should ideally be reserved for stuff that's actually important, like your database needs to be updated. But as far as, you know, a plugin's own page or a plugin's own panel, I do kind of agree that it's a little bit of the wild, wild west. It's your panel. You should be allowed to do whatever you want on your panel. And if it gets really offensive, you're going to get a lot of really negative reviews on your plugin, and that's going to be kind of a self-correcting system. But it's your panel, it's your plugin. It is not up to me to tell you what to do. But on the flip side, it is open source.
Yes.
The whole point of open source is that I can modify your stuff if I want to, because it's open source.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting, isn't it? Because in another realm where everything is free, let's say commercial television, you totally wear it. Like every 15 minutes along come a series of adverts, and you may well do the equivalent of clicking dismiss. You might go off and make a cup of coffee or something, you know, and be out, just press mute, whatever, go and feed the cat or something, and then come back in when they're over. But they're there, and they're a part of that ecosystem. You have a total understanding that the television doesn't get made without the ads. Without the ads, there's no telly. And I just don't know where the boundary lies. Whether that boundary lies in the actual physical space that you're allowed to occupy, whether it relies on, you know, are you limited to certain number of words, or are you allowed images in there? Does it have to be dismissible with a certain type of box? Should it be surrounded by a certain WordPress default color to indicate whether it's security or whether it's just an ad? Should it look in, you know, you see what I mean? And it almost feels like we need some sort of consensus to be drawn around what these things should look like, so that when it's broken, everybody can go, that is breaking it now, and we know that's out of bounds. But that discussion doesn't appear to have been fruitful. Sabrina, any thoughts on this?
I was just thinking how apartment complex are built. So when they build buildings, how not houses but buildings for apartment complex, there are two ways to make pathways around that area. First way is to build them in while you're building apartment complex. So you kind of make people, here is the building, here is the grocery store. You kind of make people to go the way that you designed. And another way is not to make sidewalks at all, but let people walk the shortest way, the most convenient way, the way that they prefer, and then to build a sidewalk where it's already been marked by people's footprints, because they choose to go this way and not another designed way, for pre-designed way for them. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, you just let people choose the most convenient and most appropriate way for them to do things, and you adopt to this. I think this is a huge challenge for all WordPress plugins and themes and everyone in the community, but it's just the way it is. We can't make users behave in the way we want them to behave. We just need to adopt ourselves to the way they see the right thing. Like Taco mentioned, that you are doing in Yoast, trying to put things where they're relevant, where they expect it to be. this is exactly what I mean. I strongly believe in free market. I don't think we need some limitations or something like strict guidelines, because the WordPress ecosystem is so various. For example, even like to my mind, the good idea might not work just because the market is so various. For example, like security, we can mark this is a performance issue, this is a security issue, this is a UI issue. But first of all, who decides to where it goes? The person who decides might not be deciding this in the right way, and then the person who sees it might not be understanding why it goes there and there, and then it's a mess again. I think the best way to handle this is like naturally. Like Jen said, if you do it just very not like others do, you get bad reviews because people are expecting something else. The market will tell you that you are not doing the right thing. That's very, very easy. You don't need to guess. People will tell you.
It's interesting as well, isn't it? Because I really don't know how long it takes to go to Twitter and write to the world that you've dismissed an ad. It
No one
probably
writes
takes longer
that.
than dismissing the ad. But I guess if you're doing it, 50,000 times on 50,000 different websites, that's certainly interesting. I genuinely don't know what the answer is here, but I'm really compelled by what Taco said about sticking things in the right place, and also the economic imperative of, look, we don't get their email address. There's another good point. You don't capture their email address from WordPress.org. They basically just come and you get something totally gratis, completely for free, and in normal normal website commerce, you would probably capture their email at the point where they downloaded the free thing. So there's another sort of impediment. But I think some sort of consistency in the way it's done and where things are placed. We've got a few comments about that coming in. Where have we got? So this is Beth again. I wonder how many clicks per day are spent on dismissing notifications across all platforms. Would be an interesting study. Yeah, it would be. It would also be interesting to see how angry it makes people. Does it really genuinely cause anger, or does it just cause that sort of?
I don't think that people get angry. We just make this intuitively. We just close up everything, right? On all apps, just dismiss all notifications, and this is not a good thing, because you might be dismissing something really important.
Right. Good point. What else have we got? So this is Max. Hello, Max. He says, annoying is relative. A bell is small and not so much in your face. So presumably liking the idea of the bell icon. And Beth again says she's got OCD, and when there are notifications showing those little red dots, she has to go and stop them and address things. Yeah, I'm a bit like that. If I see the red dot, it does kind of make me want to go and do that. Again, to Taco's point, limit them to a role. So, if you're the
Plugins are already
administrator,
doing this.
yeah, exactly. Yep. But Max again, bell or whatever, but a separate place like an inbox. Yeah, that's kind of what I was meaning, like an inbox where all of that stuff drops in. And then that argument doesn't work
and
for
then
me.
I think you get to the point, like the banking example, where there's a single inbox, and once a year you review your inbox, and you go like, yeah, this might have been relevant half a year ago. Yeah, I probably should have clicked this sooner. And then the next year you do the exact same thing because you didn't bother, because it's not the workflow. You needed that information somewhere else.
I think what we should have is a little bell, and when you click on the bell, it plays Baby Shark really loudly at you. Just it could be worse.
Violation.
Yeah, that's right. It could be worse, is all I'm saying. Max says that argument doesn't work for me. It would be like leaving notifications to be defined by app developers instead. Apple defining the workflow. Interesting. I don't have an answer to this, but Beth enjoys my Baby Shark comment. There we go. All right, let's move on. Thorny issue tackled. Oh, no. I want to just throw something in. Let me see if I can find it. Let me see if I can find it. I can't find it. Yes, I can. Here it is. I was in communication with Ross, Whittle. No, oh my goodness, I've Wintle. I've forgotten how to pronounce his surname. Hold on, let me just kind of find it quickly. Oh dear, Ross Wintle. It's got an N. I do apologise, Ross. I had you as a double T, not an N. Ross Wintle, who's wanted me to try out his little tool, and I have to say I get a few tools mentioned to me each week, but I really did like this one, so I'm going to give it a quick plug. It's called Turbo Admin. It's a Chrome extension and a Firefox extension, and I think possibly something else as well. So you install it into Chrome, and then whenever you go to your WordPress admin, you define a keyboard shortcut. In my case, I've got Control, Alt, Command, and P. So that's easy for me to get. And up pops this little thing here, and it's a bit like Spotlight on your Mac, and I don't know if there's an equivalent on Windows, but a bit like Alfred on the Mac. It pops up and you can then start typing. So for example, you could type in, I don't know, posts, and anything to do with posts will come up. And if you click on, I don't know, all posts, you'll go to all posts. And if you type in, I don't know, custom something or other, custom post type UI, it might take you to customize or whatever. You type in plugins. Anyway, it just saves me so much time, and it's not a plugin. So you don't have to go around installing it on every website. You stick it in the browser, and any WordPress admin that you hit, he says there's a few edge cases where for reasons not yet discovered it doesn't work, but in the vast majority it works. I've tried it, and on every single website I've been to, it immediately worked. And also, it's got this curious little idea where there's a toggle. One of the settings is this is coming to the ad piece, you can click a button and it will make ads dismissible. And I think it will make those dismissible kind of in perpetuity. So if like some kind of notification comes up, you can click a button and it will hide it from view into a special area. I think it might be in one of the drop downs that you get at on the right of the WordPress admin, where you can drop down and all the different things appear. It drops them into there. So they've not gone. They've just been put somewhere out of mind. And it's a setting. It's an experimental setting, but it's well worth looking at. There's a free plugin, but the browser extension I think is $35, and I really liked it, but I just thought I'd mention it in the context of the sort of hiding the ads. It's not getting rid of them, it's just putting them somewhere else, dismissing them from view. Taco?
Yeah, I haven't seen this tool before, but I'm definitely going to look into it because it sounds really useful, especially for our support team who's navigating like a ton of different sites a day, and this could definitely speed up their workflow having this in their browser.
Yeah, I'm going to I'll put it in as a notification on the screen. That's the URL for it. It's called turbo-admin.com. It just seems like a really nice little endeavor. And obviously in Jen's case, if she's flipping through hundreds of different websites over the course of a week, and you don't have to install anything in any of those 100 websites. It's just a really cool take on something which I would have thought was the realm of a plugin.
Yeah, it looks very cool. I'm going to take a look at this.
Yeah, okay, good. Alrighty, so there we go. Next piece. Let's do this. So this is right in the wheelhouse of two of our guests today. Obviously, Sabrina is a speeding up websites expert. So lots to do with Core Web Vitals, and Taco, obviously working for the Yoast team. So piece over on Search Engine Journal. It's called Good Core Web Vital Scores Won't Improve Indexing. Now, first of all, I don't know if that's true. Second of all, I kind of assumed it was completely true. Web Vitals had become totally crucial to how you index. That felt like a message that's been banged on again and again and again for the last 18 months or more, that if you don't take care of Core Web Vitals, your search engine rankings will be usurped by people who have made the efforts to speed up their websites and all of the different bits that we don't really need to go into. But essentially it comes down to the fact that, well, apparently not, because you've got experts from Google, the likes of John Mueller, I think is how you pronounce his name, saying that potentially not as catastrophic as it looks. I don't know if Google's kind of walking something back here, or if everybody just intervening a few months. But it seems like ranking factors and quality factors are two completely separate things, which I didn't know. So I'm going to toss the ball towards Sabrina and see what she does with it.
Yeah, I think it's just the confusion of terms. This is just separate things. Indexing and ranking and quality of the website. They're just different things. I'm thinking about the example. All right. So here is a blank page with nothing on it. It's going to pass all core web vitals. It's going to be fast. There is no information there. There is no valuable information to user. So it's passing. But the quality of this page, so it's passing, it's fast. The quality of this page is no quality. There is nothing there, right? So this is like an extreme example. You can have the fastest page ever, but it has no value in it at all. So, and also the other thing that they're saying, it's not going to impact indexing. So when there is a new page and new website published, Google comes and take a look at it, right? And indexes it. And if it finds it useful and the information valuable, it will come again. If it's really useful and really valuable and it's visited, it will come again often, not to miss the updates that you're getting on your website. So the more quality content you have, the more people are, the better way people are behaving on your website. What does mean better way? If they interact with the website, if they stay on the website, if they do something like that is considered to be the designed actions, all these user-centric things. So if user behave in a good way on the website, Google will come often, will come regularly, not to provide the newest information in indexing. But core web vitals won't, and they never stated they are affecting this process. They were stating that core web vitals are affecting ranking process. So once Google got to know that there are some information on the website, now it's the next step is to rank this information against others. So core web vitals was impacting the ranking thing, not indexing thing. And also, I think because I know that I told this millions of times in each my public speaking or anything, but there are so much information about this. People are just getting lost and just forget that ranking factor means ranking factor among of all others ranking factors. Speed is not something that take you from bottom to the top automatically. You have the content on your website, you have the value that your website provides. So even in ranking thing, core web vitals are just a part of user experience, and user experience is just a part of all ranking factors. So there is a pool of ranking factors. Some of them are devoted to user experience, and a part of user experience is speed. It's just a small part of the entire pool of ranking factors. But because we talk about this so much, it looks like the only speed can substitute everything, but it cannot. It's just a silly idea. It's just a silly idea to think that once you make your website fast, you're done. That's it.
That's right. But I think you've hit the nail on the head, for me at least anyway, Sabrina, is that the last 18 months have felt like we've talked about very little else. And it's become of key importance. You know, everybody's been going on about it. All these SaaS tools have popped up so that you can measure different things. And, you know, I'm sure that Yoast has had a great push to make this sort of stuff understandable. But it does feel like it's kind of got consumed, that core web vitals became everything. And the annoying thing with all things Google and ranking and SERPs and all of that is that we just don't know. We have no real understanding of what that jigsaw looks like, which piece is bigger
They're
than
giving
another.
some hints.
Yeah. Sorry, say again.
They're giving some hints, what matters, what not. Yeah, and speaking about ranking factors, just last week, one of the clients, I was telling them, all right, guys, you have no descriptions, you have that many text archives pages on your website, and there is valuable content there. Write unique descriptions for those pages and use them to bring new visitors to your website through archive pages as well. So I'm telling them, all right, you have to write unique descriptions and unique titles for your archives, maybe put some unique content for that archives pages. So not only single posts, but archive posts will be bringing traffic to their website. And they're all right, we'll do that, but how fast it's loading? We are very concerned how fast it's loading. I was like, guys, you have to slow down. There is no real content on your website. If those pages are fast, it would change nothing because there is no actual content there that Google would consider valuable thing for users.
Yeah.
Am I right, Taco?
Yeah.
Does it happen a lot?
Absolutely. Yeah, the only thing that I hear in the back of my head is what can we do to hire Sabrina because she's saying all the right things.
Nice, Sabrina.
But,
Your job offer. It's the first.
Yeah, no, this is absolutely 100% true, and there's little I can add to this. As said in the article, Core Web Vitals is a ranking factor, but more importantly, by having the title this way, people see it as an excuse. So, oh wait, so I don't have to
Right.
bother about Core Web Vitals, which is obviously the wrong take on the entire topic, because Core Web Vitals is important because it's measuring quality of your page. It's measuring the quality for your users, because if you go to a page and it starts loading and you start reading and all of a sudden everything is pushed down like half your screen, it is bloody annoying. And that's exactly what Core Web Vitals is saying. Don't have that content shift because that's stupid and it will annoy your visitors. So if you use this article as an argument not caring about
Right.
Core Web Vitals, you're doing it wrong because you're not understanding what John Mueller was saying. And that goes for pretty much everything in SEO, where, as Sabrina said, it's so many small things that make up the whole. One of the examples by a colleague of mine, name you may have heard before, John Alderson. He says, does your topography have a huge impact? Probably not. The color of your logo? Probably not. Whether you have valid HTML? Probably not. If there are typos in your content? Probably not. But if you add all of that up,
Right.
and all of that is slightly off, it's a horrible experience. And this SEO is or should be approached holistically. So
Mhm.
all of the little bits should work to your advantage. And Core Web Vitals should work to your advantage. And it's not the single most important ranking factor,
Mhm.
but it's a very small piece of a very large puzzle. So yes, everything Sabrina said.
Yes. Honestly, Sabrina, job offer on the show, fantastic. Just put a few comments in here. So, here we go. WP Roadmaps. It's Beth again. First of all, she said, really, she's been touting. She fell into that trap. It sounds like she's been touting it as being like super, super important, the Core Web Vitals thing. And she says, so it's like a hierarchy. Speed is part of Core Web Vitals, and Core Web Vitals is part of user experience, which is one ranking factor. Is that correct? The answer, I'm guessing, from both Taco and Sabrina would be yes, that is correct. Kind of like this comment from Peter Ingersoll. Hello, Peter. I always tell everyone who will listen that all the effort put into trimming microseconds is much better used for getting the basics right and creating good content. So in yours,
100%.
yeah, so content first, then do the microsecond shaving a little bit later. And seems like you've got some sort of other work offer, Sabrina. Beth wants you to talk to her students about this. So Sabrina's going to be very, very busy. Yeah, so I totally get why, because the press has been covering it. I mean, even like the normal press, the actual normal press in my country has been talking about Core Web Vitals and the impact that it's had. And when that
really?
Oh yeah, like not so much now, but 18 months ago, the usual
Like you
sort
opened the newspaper and they're
the
talking about
normal
Core Web
paper had
Vitals?
things
Oh
about
my
it. Yeah, and
God.
at that point, it starts to feel like that's the only thing, because they're never talking about this stuff normally. And all of it, there were articles. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't kind of like it was during the sort of Brexit period. I don't think it ever beat Brexit to the headline, but it was there. It was in the paper, so it was kind of interesting. Right. let's move on. Let's deal with another one. We're running short of time, so we're going to have to curtail the amount of time we spend on these. First of all, this quick one. Google again, and this time the right to be forgotten. It's Search Engine Journal once more. And just, I don't want to go into this article too much. I actually just want your opinions, because I haven't really got time to discuss all of the bits and pieces in there. But I just wanted to gather what your thoughts were on this. In where I am, that is to say the jurisdiction I'm in, the UK, I'm still not that sure what my rights are in terms of phoning Google up and saying, look, can you expunge me from the internet, please? I don't want to be discovered for some ludicrous thing that I did when I was 14, or a photo that somebody put up with me in it and I didn't consent to it being on the internet. My personal take is that given the fact that, you know, I'm just an ordinary citizen, you know, I'm not a politician, and my decisions don't actually impact other people's lives, I kind of feel that I should be allowed to phone up Google, Bing, whoever it may be, and say, I want all of it gone, please. And I'd like it to be done in, I don't know, 60 days or some reasonable amount of time. What are your thoughts? Does it concern you? Solid example for me is I don't put any photos of my children online. Not ever, not once, never. The thinking behind that is, what if they regret it? What if there's just that photo where, I don't know, they just got that weird smile and they just look a bit embarrassing, or who knows, you know, they were young and they were running around on the beach and had less clothes on than they probably would do when they're 18, for example. And I just think that's their decision to make. They can stick as many pictures as they like on, whether when they're in that age group. They can do as much embarrassing stuff as they want. But I don't want it on there so that they don't have to be faced with that. And I feel it's important that we shouldn't have a lasting record of ourselves online forever that we don't authorize. As Jen's not spoken for a bit, can we go to you? Jen, what do you think?
Sure. Well, let's just say I'm really, really glad that when I was in my early 20s, Instagram did not exist.
Right.
I'm so incredibly glad of that, as there are many parties that I am so glad there are no cameras to have ever recorded them.
Right.
But I live in the United States. I happen to live in the National Capital Region, which means the area around Washington, D.C., which is where all of the three-letter agencies for the US are stationed, which means I know that I have absolutely no rights to privacy, because I'm in the US, they don't exist. We have giant bunkers being built out west to store data on all of us.
And am I right in saying that you literally in the United States, that there is no law that you can turn to ask for this to be done? Because from what you carry on, sorry.
In the US, the basic one is that while there is freedom of speech, there is not freedom of defamation. So you can't go after and defame people. So generally, the only right to try to get someone to take something down about you is to go the course of defamation.
Right, which is not what a lot of people are going to be willing to do. There was a really nice example in the piece here, and it was basically saying, imagine you'd committed a crime. I don't know, you're 20 years old and you commit a crime and you end up in prison and you serve your time, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever. Then you come out and you have a clean sheet forever after that. You really
Not
are.
in the States.
No, but I'm saying, imagine that you are that model citizen. You genuinely are just not the kind of person anymore that's going to commit that crime. You show up to the job interview, somebody does a quick Google search based upon your name, and it's like, sorry, we can't possibly, because look what you did. And that just seems, it's not very forgiving, is it? I see you're nodding your head, Taco. I don't know if you share my thoughts on this.
Yeah, so I do think that is absolutely problematic, especially as Jen just said, I'm with you that I'm so happy that not every stupid thing I did in my 20s were caught on camera, because the quality of cameras was, well, as far as they existed on phones, not enough to be able to be recognized. But for my kids, who are now 5 and 2 years old, by the time they will be in their teens or in their 20s, everything they do will be caught on some camera. I mean, every doorbell has a camera, every house has a camera, everyone's phone has a camera, everything is listening all the time. What if they made a stupid mistake? Let's do something stupid like shoplifting. They're caught, 14 years old, put online because, they shoplifted. And then 30 years later, they're not able to get a job. I think that the right to be forgotten is becoming more important now that we have more ways of recording people and recording every single thing they do. Which is why the US example makes me so sad, because this is going to affect at least one, but possible multiple generations that are caught in between. And that's why I think the GDPR and the right to be forgotten are such a good thing.
Yeah, interesting. There's a quick comment here before Sabrina chips in from Beth again. Oh, she changed the name there. There we go. In the US, you can't get a job at 40 if you had a DUI. I don't know what a DUI is at 18. But...
drinking while driving.
Oh, okay. So you were caught having too much alcohol in your blood at 18 years. And even at the age of 40, 22 years later, that would still be enough of an impediment for you to get a job.
In the US, juvenile records, so anything that qualifies as a juvenile offense, which sometimes people are technically under 18 but still tried as an adult in the US. So juvenile is sealed, but once you're 18, everything you do will haunt you for the rest of your life if you get convicted of it in the US.
Literally, if you were 18 years and one day and committed the same crime as a day before, that would haunt you forever. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yes. It's terrible.
Yeah, it's just a fascinating subject, because obviously when I was a kid, there were computers. More or less nobody had them. There was no surveillance. There were no cameras anywhere. There was nothing like that. There was just people talking to each other and writing things with pens and paper. And it's a cause for concern. Sabrina, what are your thoughts on this?
I completely agree on everything that you guys just said, except of one thing. If I vote for politician or something like this, if it's a public person, I don't want their records to be forgotten. I don't know how it can be solved, but I think it's a different thing when you're like you said, Nathan, regular citizen, and when you're politician, for example. We don't want that information. We want to know whom we are voting for. We don't want to have information just being erased because because person doesn't feel comfortable presenting it to public. You're already making yourself public by going for election or something. So I don't know, maybe if everyone has the right to take it away from internet, but if you try to be elected for some public role, you have to present the cases when you ask to take something away or something like this to make it public backwards. Maybe some sorts of this might work.
Yeah, well, I do know what you mean. Sorry.
I don't agree with you, because even a politician, although they are obviously a more public figure than most of us, is still a basic is a human being and makes mistakes in their teens and in their 20s. And even then, they have the right to have that. Well, underage drinking is the example that passes in the comments, but they have the right to have that part forgotten because it's been 10, 20, 30 years ago and no longer relevant. Obviously, if it goes for big crimes, if someone robbed a bank and is later trying to become like the Minister of Finance, yeah, that might be problematic. But that's a different story than especially the small misdemeanors.
I guess the other area where this may be a cause for concern is where you are simply not guilty as charged, but the Google keeps a lovely permanent record of all the press coverage up to the acquittal. And, there's no smoke without fire. So look at all these things that they were being accused of. Well, actually, hang on a minute, go forward 1 year and you'll find that they were acquitted and it was all made up. But your reputation is tarnished online. Your job could be lost. And these days it really does seem it's as simple as writing a poor tweet and you can be ruined forever. And I don't know. Forgiveness maybe is the word that we want to look at here. Right. We are in a rush. Let's move on a little bit. First things first, Fly. This was brought to my attention by Jen. Jen, it's called We Designed a More Inclusive Flywheel. I would like you to tell us why we're looking at this today.
Yes. So I happen to have noticed this because I have a number of websites on Flywheel, and I was like, wow, this backend is really a lot easier to use. Like, things are just clearer. Wow, I can actually read all of the buttons. This is great. So then I noticed that they had that also on their blog, and they had published what they did, and they did a short little I don't remember what it was called, but they did a little sprint and fixed a lot of their issues, and they made their buttons significantly easier to read. They made links significantly more obvious. It just became a whole lot easier for me as someone with perfect 20/20 vision to use their website. And so I just wanted to point out that it was a really lovely point that doing some accessibility can really benefit everyone, and it doesn't always have to be a earth-shattering undertaking.
So this is the UI once you're inside, but also their blog, their public-facing blog. They've gone in and they've looked at it from an accessibility point of view, and that's something that you're really into that, right? So
Yes.
You're just pleased that okay. You can find the piece. It's called "We Designed a More Inclusive Flywheel." It was published on the 8th of February. Mikey Chaplin on the Get Flywheel blog. Okay, let's see what else we've got. What's this one here? I'm not missing this one, Taco. Taco put a few pieces in, and because time's short, he said we can skip a couple of them, so we will. But I'm not skipping this one. WordPress, as if that hasn't already happened. Wordle's taken over the universe. I don't get it. I really don't get it. See it everywhere. What have you been doing, Taco? What's WordPress?
Yeah, so a couple of weeks ago, someone tweeted like we should have a WordPress version of Wordle and call it WordlePress. And my mind immediately goes, hey, if this domain isn't taken, we should make sure that it stays available to the WordPress community. So I registered the domain, and earlier, I think this week, some conversation happened on Twitter asking for that. And this is made by Ross Wintle.
Ross from earlier.
Admin. And he had some time to play over the weekend and said, okay, let me give a first shot into what a WordPress could look like. So yeah, it's a very interesting take where you get to guess the WordPress function that consists of 4 parts. And I've been playing with it for about 30 minutes last night, and it's really hard.
Obviously you've got to be like serious. Oh, I've just renamed it. It should be called Nerdle Press.
That already exists. I think Chat is a avid player of Nerdle Press.
Okay, so WordPress, you can find it at wordlepress.netlify.app. I'm guessing if it carries on, it won't be staying there. But it says stupid, very early prototype, very in italics. This is a Wordle type game. It gives you a new random puzzle on page reload. You have to guess a WordPress core PHP function name that has less than 4 parts, e.g. WP_get _attachment_image. The score logic isn't quite right yet, but This is great. So you go in and you've got to guess what these functions are. So you've got to know your WordPress. Actually, this is kind of a fun little thing for those people who are learning WordPress, at the end of
Right.
just a
To
fun
learn.
little way of figuring it out.
Imagine there is a link to what this function does and to arguments and everything. Yeah.
I like it.
So it will eventually live on WordPress.com, but Ross wasn't quite ready to put it out that publicly, so I'm sure he's gonna hate me for putting it on the show. But yeah, no, it's so much fun. Even if you have no idea about WordPress functions, go to developer.wordpress.org, look up the functions, and you can just try them, try pieces of it, and it will still be hard.
That's cool. Wordlepress.netlify.app is where it's currently living. And if you liked the discussion we had earlier about Ross's Turbo Admin, there's a link by the looks of it at the bottom of that post as well, which looks like it's there.
Yeah.
Okie dokie. What else have we got? What's this one? This is you, Sabrina. Don't want to miss this one. Was this you, Sabrina? The optimize images?
Yeah, it was me. I think that this is a very neat article by Konstantin Kovshevin about the server-side tool to generate WebP images. So usually we use something like ShortPixel or Imagify to generate WebP images on our website, and then we need to either add rules to htaccess to make redirection, right? But it never works because no one is very few people are using Apache server right now. Most of them using Nginx. So the other option is to enable JavaScript replacement, which doesn't usually work properly because WordPress is such a modular system, and then when these parts of content are replaced, there are lots of chance something goes wrong. Anyways, the best way to do this to generate WebP images and to add rules into your Nginx configuration file. That's what everyone usually does. But there is another thing there. When you add rules to Nginx configuration file, it's not super easy, and also you have to contact your host, and there might be modules might not be enabled or something like this. Anyways, and this is a tool that you can use if you're using something like DigitalOcean or you have your droplet elsewhere. You can use this tool to generate WebP images for free without subscription, because a lot of services are paid subscriptions right now. You're generating them for free on your server, and then you serve images in WebP format. It does more than that. It does more than just serving images in WebP. It compresses them. It resizes. You can put a lot of arguments there. But the main thing is WebP, because it's caught my attention, because usually you pay for generating WebP, and this is a free thing and easy to use thing. So you just install it if you're already using Droplet, you install it on your server and you get it for free. Isn't that nice?
Yeah, that is nice. And you're right. I do pay for a service that would do that. I never use them yet. I'm still caught in that. It's not 100%. So I'm still in that kind of, it's 95%. So I'm still using PNGs and JPEGs and things like that. I haven't quite made the gap yet. But yeah, free is always good. So you can find that on the sailed.io blog. It's blog.sailed.io. It's called Optimize Images and Serve WebP.
Yeah, so the tool is called Image Proxy. What it does, it's actually just proxying the images. It creates WebP version and proxying the requests to the images. It works very nice. And because it's server side and not based on JavaScript, obviously it's more performant, it's faster.
Very nice. Very, very nice.
Another thing, ShortPixel, for example, it hosts the images when you generate WebP, it hosts it elsewhere. So you're making another request to their service, server. And this is hosted on your very own server. No outbound requests. Nice benefit as well.
Very good. Thank you very much. I think we're done. We're certainly done in terms of time. We've gone over a little bit. I do apologize to the three guests, Taco and Sabrina and Jen. Very nice to have you on once again. Really enjoyed having you here. I hope you'll all come back and do it all again at some point in the future. We're at that part of the show, Jen. I'm sorry you won't know about this, where we've got to do the awkward wave, because I always get people to wave so that we can use this as the album art. So if we could all, yay! And the awkward wave is over. Thank you so much. We'll be back this time. You can stop now, Sabrina. She's just keeping on waving. We'll be back this time next week with a different panel of guests talking about WordPress, though. And so until then, thank you, Taco. Thank you, Sabrina. And thank you, Jen. Really nice to have you on.
Thank you
Take it easy.
for hosting, Nathan.
You're welcome.
It was lovely to be here.